Welcome to this week's edition of The Passion of the Digital Artist. And here he is, coming to you live from his back deck in beautiful Canton, Ohio, Jeff Mueller.
Thank you, Xavier. Oh, the fresh air. It's so great to be outside today.
It actually feels like spring.
I tweeted about that the planets had aligned perfectly so that I could paint on a Sunday afternoon, get going to finishing the Cape Cod series.
I tweeted Persephone. I told her to come back from the underworld.
But fresh air, we're not in that dark studio, which I don't mind for the computer part, but this is what I love. It's a little archaic, but what I like to do is, here we are with Evening Tide, and I'm about 3/4 finished with the painting process. I've gone through and I painted in on the shadow area of the cliff, the shadow on the sand. I've painted the water over here, added some really nice, really enjoyed painting the whites into the clouds. The clouds were lacking a little bit of oomph, and you could kind of compare the two in a little bit. And then worked on the lighthouse to add a little bit of detail in the lighthouse. We're going to go through me painting with the sand, but first, what I'd like to do is go through what my tools are as far as the acrylic painting process. I've got a bunch of different things. One, really, the grip it is one of the most important tools. When you're just opening brand new paints, it's one thing, but when you are opening paints that have been out closed for 6-8 months or even a year or whatever, the acrylic will form a bond, and this just makes everything easy. I have a palette knife for spreading out the paint off the tube. I've got my wooden palette, but I also buy the sheets for mixing so that the wooden palette doesn't, and you can just throw it away. I prefer that to the plastic palettes, which you have to wash. I'm just not a big cleanup guy. I love cleaning my brushes so that they're just perfect the next time, but I'm just not a big cleaning guy. Now, in the past, on the 30 by 60s, I was using similar brushes to this. I like these brushes, and actually all the brushes that with the shapes are actually existent in the computer. So I love the fact that the actual rounded shape, the square shape, the half brush shape, those are all that I use in the computer and outside. But for this particular series, because of the detail, I've been using the fine detailed sable hair brush. There's two levels, and they're just the sable hair will give you, if you get the right consistency with the acrylic, really nice coverage, brings it to a point you're allowed, it just gets you the detail that you're looking for when you're painting this type of detail. Whereas in the social media series, the detail wasn't as it was bigger and it wasn't as fine-tuned as these paintings are. Now, the other thing, the acrylic flow improver, this improves the flow of the acrylics. The better the acrylics, the better the flow. So this helps with some of the less expensive acrylics, but I pretty much have gotten to the higher end acrylics I use Golden. Actually, this was a gift from my mother-in-law, and I really enjoy this. And I also use the Winsor Newton Gallery. And the last thing, I use the gloss medium. That's kind of like an extender. This will extend, like if you've mixed the perfect color and you need a lot of it, and you realize that this is working really well and you need more, you can use the gloss medium. So that brings us to what I actually do and how I do it. In this case, I'm going to be dealing with the oranges, the reds, and the yellows, and the browns of the sand. And I basically, using my different colors, and I try not to waste, because the coverage, it's just...
For those of us listeners and viewers out here that see the painting on the easel and the one leaning against the patio door, would you give us an explanation of that one again?
Well, right now that's the comparison of the two. The one, the shadow, initially when I printed the original print, the shadow was too dark and I had it printed a little bit. I went through Simply Color. They're a great place. They will work with you to get what you're looking for as far as the print. And because I'm making prints of each one, I got to get it perfect before I start painting on it, so that if someone orders not the one-of-a-kind acrylic painting that I'm doing, but a print of one of the series. The print is to my color corrections and specifications and approved by me, so that I can just call them up. You order the print, I call them up, and they ship it directly to you. Fabulous, fabulous. Simply Canvas, Simply Color is a fabulous, one of the best printers I've ever come across, and I've been doing this since 1989 printing. They just are willing to work with you. There's no issues whatsoever. They want to get it the way that and make it so that you're happy, and I have nothing but really, really good things to say to them. I'll even tell you, at Simply Canvas, you can follow the owner on Twitter. So I'll have that link on the blog. Now, I've got the oranges. We'll put a little bit of, back to the, using the gripper. It makes a big difference. I've wrecked bottles trying to open them if you don't use the gripper. One more, I'll get the yellow ochre out because we're looking, and what I do is initially I'll analyze the areas I'm going to be painting. You need the darker colors at the moment for the shadows that are existing in the sand, and then you're looking at oranges, yellows, and there's a little bit of green in there that I have left over. So you can see that I had the green from before when I was painting into the brush, and then also I'm going to paint the highlights up above, as you'll see on the painting. So there we go. We're kind of ready. Drop off that, and as you'll see when I gotta get my towel. My towel is very important. I like to use one of the free packer towels if it's not a commemorative thing, and really it's just great because you sit there and you just make sure that your brush is clean. You keep it by you. It keeps most of the paint off your clothes.
Now, what are you dipping into? Is that just water?
Yes, this is water because acrylic it will mix with waters. I mean, it's not it's not like watercolor, but you can dilute it a little bit so that, for instance, on the white, when I was painting the white, I paint a little bit heavy, then I take a watery brush and just smooth it out.
So point to us on the painting what area you're going to address.
Everywhere there's sand, I'm going to be addressing that. So I'm going to get my white, which I have set up here. And if you look, it's a little bit cream colored. So I'll just take a little bit. There you go. It's all you need. There you go. I mixed up what I mixed. Now, that's a pretty good flow that's happening right there. So it gets into the tip.
And you know it's a pretty good flow because it's adhering to the brush properly.
Well, you can just see it's almost like creamy. When you're dealing with a non-flowing paint or color, it'll be like almost a chunky. It'll be chunky and it won't flow. So you'll add the flow improver, and then all of a sudden it'll be
so
creamy.
Like when you pick it up, it doesn't leave a tail. It separates
right.
nicely.
So
okay.
I'm gonna go in here, and basically you look for the areas where the color is, and I'm just gonna match in. You don't have to do a lot.
And what this does is brings out the highlights in the sands and adds the ever so important painterly effect that you've talked about in previous blogs.
Right. You're basically, this is paint. You're enhancing what for instance, like right here, I want to just hit the lights just a little bit coming in. I thought that it was just a little bit abrupt. So right through there, I'll add that through to make that transition, and it's still abrupt because of what's going on. And then the transition, you've created a transition with the white so that it just doesn't end abruptly. I'll go through. I went to Cleveland on Friday night for the Cleveland West Art League mixer meeting and had a really good time there. So met a lot of people, kind of hooked up with them on Facebook, doing a little bit of networking, and it's starting to pay off. But when I'm with artists, I found that it's better to talk about the social media series than whip out the the Lighthouse Cape Cod series because they're more interested into the people aspect than landscapes. Found that intriguing. I've got at least 4 or 5 paintings ready to go for the next round of the social media series. I have a New York series and a Niagara Falls series, which I might, it just depends on how long the New York series takes. But those are what's, and then me and Rachel and even Xavier and his wife might go to the Hamptons next year if we can swing it. That would be a nice area to go to.
That would be awesome.
All right, so you can see how I'm doing the little highlights, bringing the white out. One of the nice things about when you're painting in the computer is that a lot of the colors are there for you. That's probably the speed aspect of when I'm painting that I use the reference for. So when I'm painting, you have to mix colors, and having a color mixing background, being a conventional airbrush artist retoucher where I had to match colors, that really helps me out here as far as mixing. And a lot of times, like this color, I go to the burnt umber, but I can mix my own burnt umber by mixing the red in by myself, getting a little bit more reddish tones. Dark feel right there. So then that's what the shadows feel, and I see a little bit of, I want to bring some out of here. And one of the nice things that you can do is that when some of the detail is lost in your shadows, when you're printing, you have the ability to paint it back in, which is really a nice thing to do. And it works out well. I found that a lot of the times where the printing process lacks is in the shadows, but once with adding in the acrylic painting, you really can come up with some nice.
That's amazing what you just did there.
Colors.
Very nice job, Jeff.
That's what I'm doing. Everybody, I know that this has been a long time coming, and a lot of my followers, this is a really good example. Right here, I'll just drop it down. You can see the difference. What you can do, the shadow, I've pretty much pulled out the richness color through the shadow the way I envisioned it. It was lacking. Bringing out some highlights in the sand. I got a little bit more to go. I added a little more realistic painting feeling to the water. Hit the highlights here, really brought the sky out here. It's just enhancing the painting to make it just better. And it's something that I just love to do. And
yeah, the detail is all but lost on the cliff there, but right up here it's brilliant.
Yes, and that's one thing the acrylics can do. You can bring that brilliancy out. Then I'll spray coat it, sign it, and it's going to be ready to go. So almost one done. I'll finish that tonight. And that's another blog for another week in this fresh air 60-degree weather.
Awesome, Jeff.
See you guys next week.
Take care, folks.